Hello, and welcome to the Park Podcast, the Mars Park SGA's podcast series. My name's Carson, and I'm a senior representative here at Mars Park. On today's episode, we'll be discussing the recent inauguration and looking forward to our future as Americans. With me today, I have my fellow representatives, William Coley, Ann Gray Oxrider, and Paige and Kate Bunden.
We wanted to put a disclaimer on this episode because in this episode, we talk about the current events in the world and in our country specifically, which does touch on politics a bit, and we just want to disclaim that Myers Park SGA is a bipartisan organization and does not take a position one way or another. We are using this podcast as a way to discuss current events and what is happening in our world and maybe start some conversations for other people. This year's election has been a big deal with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris winning, which is actually really cool because she is the first female vice president, but as well as that, she's also the first African American and Asian American vice president, which is really cool.
Yeah, especially since it's still Black History Month. It's really awesome to see this representation. Also with Amanda Gorman.
Yeah. I think it's really important. Obviously in the past year or so, the Black Lives Matter movement has become more apparent than ever, especially in our society. And racial tensions have obviously been increasing, which is not a good thing. But I think with Kamala Harris now being the vice president, I think that's just a great image of, the values of our country and what we should represent as a nation, being supportive of, all races, all identities and such. So I think it's a really good step forward for, our country, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think with this past summer, stuff, like you said, was really, really high tension. So I think it's a good step forward compared to where we were. And I think it, like you said, represents our country really well.
Yeah, exactly. And to go back to Amanda Gorman, who was the poet at the inauguration, she's 22 years old. So that's also another way of creating history because she's the youngest poet to speak at an inauguration.
Yeah, I thought that was super powerful to see her speaking, and I know that specific part of the inauguration was super powerful for a lot of people, and I just think that was super cool to see as a young person, to see that we can, use our voices and also our creativity through poetry or whatever it may be to express ourselves and express our opinions. So yeah.
I couldn't believe Amanda Gorman was only 22 years old. She seemed so smart and so articulate. It gives me a lot of hope for, future generations, including ourselves, to, be able to communicate and being able to use our voices and being able to invoke change in our political climate today. So it's truly, inspiring stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just showed with Amanda Gorman being the first national youth poet for America, which was really cool that she's super young but still so mature and educated on these really important topics.
I think it's amazing how now that we have these powerful women in office, they seem like such great icons and role models for people younger than ourselves to be able to look up to, which I think is crucial for not just our generation, but, future generations to be able to see, such inspirational people in power. I think we're making really good steps for sure.
Yeah, especially in a time where we're encouraged to stay inside and be safe. It's cool to see how words and just poems, speaking, all of that can be used for positive change, and I think that was awesome also.
Yeah, I think we can also talk about right now what President Biden has already done so far, being president. And I know he's done a lot for the coronavirus already. Try to stop that along with racial inequality and doing a lot. I know Carson was talking about before the podcast, we're talking about the environment and climate change acts that he's been trying to pass.
Yeah, I'll go off of that, Ann Gray. Now with this shift in power, it's nice to look at what President Biden has in store for us. And I think, the climate crisis is obviously something that impacts all of us. And, not only were we talking about, future generations, I mean, nothing could be more apparent than the climate crisis. And it's nice to see that our president has really taken an initiative and trying to work towards being able to, help solve all these issues that, have to do with our earth and, sustaining our livelihood for, our parents and, our future kids and whatnot. But obviously just living in a healthy environment is, beneficial to everyone. So I can really respect, that Joe Biden is an advocate for that.
Yeah, especially because climate change is an issue that I feel like a lot of youth are very passionate about. So it's cool to see maybe an older president also being willing to actually make change.
Something I found pretty interesting was I saw a thing that was saying like executive orders passed in the first 3 days. Joe Biden passed like 19 compared to like Trump, who did 1, and like Obama, who did 0. So like that just shows that he definitely has a plan that he wants to put in place. I mean, obviously some people disagree, some people agree, but I just think it's very interesting to show how much more he's done compared to the past presidents we've had. So something to take note of.
Yeah, with that, one that just asked is that he repealed the discriminatory ban on transgender people serving in the military. So that was a big thing that a lot of people were talking about. That was really great of him to do. So.
Yeah, and going off of what Joe Biden has in store for the next few years of his term, I did hear something that was really cool, was that the Biden administration, specifically the press secretary, they're exploring ways to speed up the effort in replacing Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill with Harriet Tubman. I think having Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill again, Joe Biden is making a lot of good steps into having our nation just be viewed in, I think, a correct way. We all want we want our nation to be reflected as a nation of equality.
And on social media, with all of the turmoil that's been happening, I've definitely been seeing some people from other countries like almost laughing at us and kind of like seeing us in a negative light. So I think it's good that we can work towards or work against that and work towards a better image and representation of ourselves.
I completely agree. I think that no matter what side of politics you're on, it doesn't matter. Everybody wants America to be viewed the best that it can be and be the best country, I guess, that we can be. And Harriet Tubman was like such a big part of our history that it's like really cool if they could make that happen.
Yeah. In fact, Harriet Tubman, if this does go through, she will be the first Black person on the face of an American paper currency, which is crazy to think about. But I think it's a change that, that needs to happen, because obviously we want to reflect that, we're supportive of, all races and all identities. And
yeah, so Joe Biden's also planning on pushing out the vaccines a lot quicker than Trump was. I forgot what the number was, but it was something having to do with having 100 million out instead of 50 million or something like that. So he's trying to get the vaccines out, which is hopefully going to affect how quickly we get back to school and stuff like that. You don't really know right now, but, he's definitely trying to get the vaccines out, which is, I think, a good thing.
Yeah, I just think it's crazy. It's been almost like a year since all of this started, so it's nice to see and sort of maybe inside.
Yeah, we're almost there, guys. So just let's keep fighting. Let's keep working on social distancing, mask wearing, and being respectful to not only ourselves but everyone that we associate in public and everything. But I think it's terrific that we're so close to being behind this, and with the vaccines being rolled out, I think it's kind of a sigh of relief for a lot of people. So,
and that concludes this week's episode. Thank you to my fellow representatives for joining me today. It is so important to not only reflect on important current events, but also stay optimistic for the future. In order to stay updated with all things Mars Park, it's important to follow at Mars Park High School and at MPHS_SGA on Instagram. Also, sign up for the Mustang Express email chain to receive important information about Mars Park. You can subscribe to the MPHS PTSO website. If you have any questions you'd like to add to the podcast, you can DM either Instagram account. We'll be back in 2 weeks for another MPHS Student Government podcast episode. We look forward to having you. Bye.